Hello everybody and welcome back. I am KRX and we're going to be doing another SWOT analysis and opening moves, this time for France in Europa Universalis 4. Of course, we've done France recently on the YouTube channel as a complete beginner tutorial. This is going to be a little bit more quick play, intermediate level play for immediate level players. We are playing with all of the DLCs activated right now as well, so that's worth keeping in mind, including Leviathan and the 1.31 patch. I have a playlist link down below for all the other SWOT analysis that we've done, and I'm trying to basically catch up to all the nations that we've already played and do some SWOT analysis and opening moves for all of those nations. Of course, a SWOT analysis, it's like a term that I don't know if they still teach it or not in like business administration or whatever. It's school, right? It's this idea of assessing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it basically, I'm kind of using that as just a quirky term to describe the process of setting up the country, evaluating the situation, analyzing the ecosystem, and making decisions for a country that you're just starting to play. Because so every time you pick a new country that you haven't played before, you have to kind of go through the process of like, okay, what's the deal? What's our military capacity? What's our economy? What's our naval ability? Who are our allies? Who are our threats? Where's our goals and opportunities, where, so on and so forth. So you go through that kind of idea of a SWOT analysis, and we're going to be doing that in the first episode here, and it's a two-part series. The second episode is basically we execute on our plan. We take our analysis and we execute on it. We do opening moves. We let the clock run, and we try to have a good start as France. So part one, though, is just trying to like, what the heck is going on as France? What do we want to do as France? What kind of achievements can we achieve with France? Just what's the deal with France? Okay, let's look at this. And again, this is going to be not for complete beginners, but hopefully everything will be explained and commentated enough that people of all levels should be able to follow along here. Looks like we have England, Burgundy, and Austria have rivaled us. That means that Castile might actually be an ally. Okay, so Castile is an ally. We don't really have much of a border with Castile until we take this province, which we should from England eventually. So we probably are going to be fine in allying Castile. I think that's a good ally. And the thing is, if we can actually get Castile to help us in the war against England, because there will be an initial war against England, and that war against England will actually be a defensive war. England will be the aggressor, which means our allies will be called into the war, which almost makes me wonder. Portugal. I'm almost tempted to try to get an alliance on Portugal. If we have Portugal and Castile's navy helping us out in the war against England, we'll actually have naval dominance against England, so that's really good. Alternatively, we could pick up like Denmark or something. Although Denmark has a lot of sort of galleys based on dominating the Baltic, they don't really have the like heavy ships to help us against England, although Norway does. Norway is a subject of Denmark. Norway has 3 heavies. In fact, Norway has the largest heavy fleet in the game at the start of the game. Or wait, no, I'm making that up. Sorry. Maybe I just meant in Scandinavia. Maybe I was just thinking in between the 3 countries that are joined together, they have the heavies, whereas I don't think Denmark or Sweden have any heavies. Yeah, largest in the game. I'm a doofus. Well, to be fair, they're tied for 3rd. England has the largest in the game. Duh, we knew that. Castile number 2. France actually too. We could try to build up more heavies as well, but they're very expensive. We only have 60 gold at the moment, so we have to figure out what to do with that. The truth is, we don't really need to build more land units if we don't want to, because we already have a pretty large army there. So we might actually just sort of, and we should be able to control Europe, mainland Europe, just fine. It's really a naval issue potentially for us. So let's rival these folks. Actually, well, if we're gonna ally Portugal, we cannot rival England yet. I should have sent them the alliance first. I should have sent Portugal the alliance, and then we should have been buttering up Castile. So we did that in the wrong order, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's get Burgundy here. Actually, who have you enemied, Portugal? Not that we have any choices here. Grenada, Morocco. Oh, they've actually enemied Brittany, which is interesting. Apparently, these are only choices. Let's just grab Austria. and Burgundy. I'm going to leave England for a bit, see if we can pick up Portugal, then get England, and then when England attacks us, the alliance between England and Portugal will end because England will have to join our side of it, because we'll be the defender. Too many diplomatic relations. Holy cow, wait a second. That's right, because we got all kinds of things going on. We are guaranteeing Scotland right now. So if we go to diplomatic map, we're guaranteeing Scotland. We have all these little subjects and stuff. And these subjects are radically increasing our land troops, right? Like we have 15,000 units here that are belonging to our subject. Although our subjects, I believe, will actually shrink a little bit. I think the unit count there will shrink down a touch. Let's get these guys drilling because we can afford it. I'm assuming because France. Well, actually, our economy's not amazing. It's not amazing. Let's get our light ships protecting trade in Bordeaux. Interesting that England actually has dominance in that node. Let's tell them to go home during war. Let's get the rest of the ships over here to be a little bit more ready for when England attacks, I guess. If we look here, we're just basically going through and just assessing the situation here. 424 King Charles VII, morale of armies, which is good. Extra advisor. That's actually going to be kind of nice at the beginning, just to make sure we can get somebody good here. What are we going to want? I'm almost wondering if morale of navies. Kind of an interesting choice. Discipline would be good, but again, I don't know if we're actually going to be battling England on land until we actually potentially get up here and sort of go in through, potentially through Ireland, or if we have naval dominance, then we could do that. Man, I'm seriously almost tempted to pick up this guy here for the morale of navies. I'm tempted. We have a lot of fortifications. We have a lot of fortifications. This one, I really like this one. It's in the hills and it's sort of on the front there. This one's next to our capital, so that's kind of nice. This one's in the grasslands. I'm not worried about this one. This one's also when I say grasslands, I mean farmlands. It's flat terrain here. I'm not particularly in love with this fort. Aragon technically could come up this way, but Portugal could come up this way, but we'll be totally fine. We'll be totally fine. I'm going to get rid of those two forts so we can mothball the others. We're France. We're one of the most powerful countries in the world. So we're not going to have someone sneak attack, us. We'll be okay. To get another heavy ship would literally be all of our ducats. You know, I'm doubling down on this idea. Morale of navies. Guy. Let's get just a few more troops. Up to 30,000. And then I think we'll save up for a heavy. We'll save up for a heavy. Try to get maybe up to like, a couple more heavies. Although to be fair, we could also get this guy too. We could afford multiple guys. Prestige, I don't know if that's really that appealing right now. The discipline is fine. Let's focus on... we don't need to be focused on Diplo. I'm just going to deselect that and let this just be 758. That's going to be fine. Maybe it was trying to focus on Diplo because it knows we have so many diplomatic relations. That's interesting, though. Let's yank back some land from the estates before we start hitting buttons and things. Let's call a agenda. Call for an agenda from these guys. Barry is right here. That'd be it's not a particularly amazing trade, so we wouldn't mind getting the base tax on this up to get a little bit of that's a mission we could easily do. Manpower at least 75%. That is not going to happen because we're going to be at war with England before this happens, so that will fail if we select that. Because if you go to war, basically this mission will fail if it's not been completed. I mean, getting a 50% level 2 guy at 50% cheaper would be nice. However, I don't think we'll be able to. I don't think we'll be able to dominate this node too soon because there's a lot of other influences here. So I think, yeah, we're just going to do the clergy one to dev this province up. We could just do it now, but yeah, we'll let it kind of hang out for a bit. So the French strong duchies, we start with this. This gives us +3 diplomatic relations. Of course, we can't integrate any of these countries until 10 years from the start of the game. But then at that point, we can start integrating them and alleviating our relationships. Oh, Provence. Oh, we're allied to Provence. You know, honestly, I think there's a world in which we actually dissolve this. I think there's a world in which we dissolve this, but we are at least buffering against Burgundy's attack into Provence. And we don't want Burgundy just to like take Provence for free. So I think we keep Provence for now. And then eventually we are going to have to ditch Provence. Hope you know that I think that will be happening. I don't know if we want to. I don't think we want to royal marry them. Essentially, what we could do is we could actually build a spy network against England, and what that's going to do for us is that's going to we already have tons of justification for war against them because we have cores on all of this land, which is really cool. So we can get that back really cheap. But I'm going to build a spy network so that we can actually siege their land faster. Because for every, basically, if you have 100 spy network with the person that you're sieging, you get like 5 or 10% siege bonus or something like that. Interesting. Oh no, yeah, England has rivaled us. Duh. Yeah. Burgundy, Scotland, and us. Economy is looking great. Hopefully, we'll make enough to be able to get some heavies online. Of course, you know, the French have amazing ideas. Extra manpower modifier initially, diplomatic reputation. Very quickly, you can get that 20% morale of armies, which is huge. All right, actually, yeah, let's look at our missions here a little bit. It wants us to take Brittany. Subjugate Brittany. Is there something that gives us a subjugation against them? Wants us to subjugate Brittany. They're too big for that diplomatically, aren't they? Yeah. This is something that might take a little bit more time to take all of this. I don't know if we ever get like free claims on this area or not. It kind of looks like we don't. Okay, this is in the age of absolutism. So the establish the musketeers, that'll be much later. Centralized France will be a matter of integrating these subjects. So it wants us to get rid of the French strong duchies, and we have no subject country is in the capital region of France. So it wants this all to be centralized here. So this will happen, and we'll just get it. This is going to be a little bit later on, and then it talks about the age of Reformation. So this is further into the game. Of course, we have to wait 10 years before we can integrate any of those guys. Recover Normandy, and that'll give us free, or that'll give us an event. So we are going to try to recover Normandy, and we have the cores to do it. This is, if we can control these, we'll get free permanent claims on the Provence area and on this area. So this area and this area will get free permanent claims, and then that will actually take us down the route of conquering Provence and then going into Burgundy and so on and so forth. In fact, actually, it looks like taking over Brittany is what leads us into taking and defeating England and actually mounting a invasion against England there. So, and then discover North America, colonial expansion. These are colonial ones that we may do later as we get colonial ideas. French wars are a special French wars of religion. Disaster can happen to us in the age of Reformation, it looks like. Kind of looking through, we have amazing generals as France, absolutely amazing generals that we start with. We have the subjects, they all love us, so there's not an issue there, but we could work on starting buttering them up so that we could start, you know, getting ready to integrate them. That's right, let's actually get some estates plugged in here. I think what we do, I think we're nearly done sort of planning out and setting up the country, right? Looking at the situation, getting things ready to unpause. We're nearly there. We just get the estates, and then we'll talk a little bit about strategy, what we're planning to do, and maybe some of the achievements that you can get with France as well. In fact, I think at this point I've gotten most all the achievements with France that you can get, the big ones at least. Governing capacity. Some of these require giving up land, right? Which we can't do right now. We're only at 34%. So over time, we'll be trying to expand our governing capacity or institute the religious state and get the extra administrative power and things like that. Papal emissary. You know, buttering up the Pope would actually be a really good thing. This could be really, really neat. That could be really, really neat. Extra, yeah, I think we're going to want this. We're just going to need to butter up the Pope a little bit and wait for the papal points to tick up to 5 so we can spend that to enact it. We don't actually have an administrative advisor right now, so we don't need to activate that at the moment. This is just a really easy one to do to give him more influence and more happiness. Yeah, if we destroy a church, we lose papal influence. If we build a church, we gain papal influence. This is the easy one to do. It's 10 loyalty, 10 influence. Yeah, those ones are super easy to do. Then I guess at this point, we'll probably end up doing Clerical Advisory Council mixed with the Papal Emissary. Those later on, once those become relevant for us. Aristocratic Counselors, that makes the Military Advisor cheaper. Actually, we should have done that before we hired the Military Advisor. Would have saved a little bit on his signing bonus. Now, apparently this one's actually really, really good. Increases the influence and loyalty of all of these groups quite a bit. I've been told that people do really like this one. Now, the nobility already is pretty influential, so I think we're going to hold off on the right to council. We're going to hold off on that. Now, I think one of these guys will make it cheaper to have light ships, at least. Yeah. So light ship cost minus 20%. Ship trade power plus 10%. I like that one. Private trade fleet. I like always leaving a space available for indebted to the burghers or the bourgeoisie, because that ends up being really, really good at getting those 5 low-interest loans whenever you need to take loans. Definitely better to do it this way, I find. And we do have a diplomatic advisor. I'm a little bit worried about what is the equilibrium here. 60, yeah, 60, 61, 62. So that should be good. We could gain a little bit of prestige at the cost of tax, national tax, but I think the money's going to be more valuable than prestige. We'll be pretty prestigious just as we're attacking England and winning wars and stuff like that. So I think we're fully set up, guys, for this SWOT analysis. I think strategically speaking, right, we're going to want a war at some point, but we have time to wait. We're going to want a delayed war against Burgundy in order to trigger the Burgundian inheritance and occupy and absorb some of Burgundy's land. That's something that can happen if Burgundy is stuck in a war and their ruler dies. If this guy dies and they're stuck in a war. Actually, he's got an heir right now, so maybe the heir needs to take over, and then if this guy dies or something. Basically, there's a thing where, if you're in a war with Burgundy and his ruler dies on the battlefield, which I think is pretty common that Burgundy will put their ruler on the battlefield, then it can cause that Burgundian inheritance where France will get a big chunk of it. The HRE will get a chunk of it. Some of these nations up here will join the HRE and they'll leave, independently. England's actually going to, there's going to be an event over here for Maine. England's actually going to decide whether to give us this as they promised or say, no, we're going to keep it. And that's going to trigger a war. If that war triggers, then we'll be fighting a defensive war against England because they've already promised us land. So if they go back on that, they're the aggressors on not giving us this, as the treaty already said that they should give us this. We're probably not going to take any land from them here, because what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take this land as a reconquest war. So the aggressive war against England won't be a reconquest war. Probably won't take this land then, but we'll then do an immediate war against them in the future. We might try to take this, though, as a landing point up here in Ireland so that we can actually sneak in and beat up England that way, which would be pretty good. Brittany is someone that I guess we could start building spy networks on and get claims on them and start working towards potentially subjugating them or just conquering their land piece by piece. Aragon actually likes us right now. We might just keep them happy with us. I don't think we're going to be able to ally them because we've already chosen to ally Castile. Austria is eventually going to be a problem, but right now I just don't think we're actually going into the HRE. We're more concerned with England and Burgundy and Provence. than we are with the HRE. So it'll be a while until we actually care to go into the HRE. Some of the achievements you can get with France is if you take over Moscow, it's like better than Napoleon. You have to get Vienna and Moscow. So basically, essentially what it is just conquer Europe as France, right? And you can get the better than Napoleon. There is also, if you can get 100 cord provinces in the first 100, by 1500, if you can get 100 cord provinces by 1500, it's for the Big Blue Blob achievement, which usually involves, we've done it before actually on the Twitch channel, but usually involves taking a big chunk of land from England, taking Ireland, Scotland. And at that point, usually you can kind of do it with that. You trigger the Burgundian inheritance, you decentralize France, you centralize France, and you undo the decentralization. You take over Brittany, you take over all of this, and you're good. Some people will jump over to Norway and take a lot of this land up here. You can even sort of slither your way up into the Livonian land up here, or take some of the land up in here and stuff like that. So a lot of cheap land up here. Scotland's pretty cheap. Ireland's really cheap. So that's usually a way to get a bunch of provinces for the Big Blue Blob. But you can kind of do it any way you want. You do have to go pretty fast. Actually, I don't know how it feels these days. Since the Emperor DLC, if it's easier or harder to do than it used to be, but that's a pretty fun achievement. There's also, I think, an achievement for France where you get to the Age of Revolution and you play as France and you spread the revolution to, you spawn the revolution and you spread it to 10 other countries. So that's kind of so you can kind of do all of those at the same time. You can start off with a nice quick Big Blue Blob. You can spread out to Moscow and Vienna and get better than Napoleon. You can then play into the final era of the game where you can then spread the revolution to other countries. And from there you can actually end up getting a bunch of big achievements all in one run, which is pretty cool. Guys, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. In the next episode, we're going to unpause. We're ready to go. We got France set up, ready to go. We're going to unpause, play France, and hopefully win some war, at least against England, and just get off to a good start and just kind of feel that out and do the opening moves for France now that we have a plan, a strategy, and we've looked through everything and set up the country so that it is ready to go. Thanks everybody for being here. I'll see you guys in the next episode.